tous, bienvenue de retour dans cette salle. Nous avons le plaisir d'accueillir Didier Queloz qui va présenter l'origine de l'initiative ou sur la thématique des origines qu'il porte entre l'Université de Genève et d'Oxford.
Thank you very much. First, I would like to say congratulations for getting this amazing funding. So I think it's a very impressive program you have, and I wish you really good success. With just a note of warning, 7 years is very short. So think already what comes after. That's really my advice. Okay, so I will be dwelling on the core of what we're talking about. Essentially, is the question of the origin. I didn't put an S because origin relates to the one we know, which is the origin of Earth, the life on Earth, and the prevalence, which is about life, and as we may find it in the universe, more complex way. I do think this is an extremely complicated problem, and it's not like some simple question about what is dark matter expansion of the universe, which is very specific. And this is really something that requires a lot of complex information that goes together, and that is one of the challenges of the game. I will briefly discuss at the end 2 initiatives, which turns out to be more initiatives. It's no center, they're fully established, one in Cambridge and one in Zurich, ETH Zurich. Okay, so let's start with that. I like to start with this statement because I think as a physicist, I just can't resist asking, why do we have life? You know, we know why we have stars, and it's not something that is given because when you form the universe, you don't produce stars, right? You produce space-time and some matter, and that's still then to develop, and then you get stars, and then the chemistry and so on. So it's quite interesting to think about that way. In the sense that the equation of physics are embedded, life is embedded into the equation of physics because it happens. Even more puzzling for me and more fascinating, which is not maybe a topic here, is even consciousness, because this is what we're doing right now. We're using a consciousness to have these lovely discussions. So why life? Could you make sense? How do you connect it? Like we understand formation of galaxies and stars right now. Can we go to planets and then life? And then is the universe full of life? And that's really what we're trying on. And I want to just back up my point using a Nobel Prize biochemist that really put this on the central and produced a couple of books. Is Christian de Duve that insists that life is embedded really into the system, and it's an obligatory manifestation of matter written into the fabric of the universe. So I am convinced that life is everywhere in the universe. It doesn't mean that it develops, it grows, becomes like us. But I think in terms of foundation of physics, that's my background here. Now, I like to start with this because when you deal with the question of life, you have to talk about planet. And usually what a planet we have in mind is a planet with a rocky surface, because we see that as an absolute requirement. And the only planet we know very, very well is that one. I usually do that when I give talks because people not familiar with the Earth, I mean, they don't realize the Earth geophysics. They don't realize that the Earth has a complete evolution, and the atmosphere of the Earth is very different from what it was at different stages, and there is a very, very fascinating evolutions on the atmospheric compositions of the atmosphere on the Earth. And most of it depends on the astrophysical startup, when you form the planet, what you get at the beginning, then the subsequent evolutions, what's going to impact on this planet, and a lot of carbonate of falling on the planet is great. Some of the gas are going away, most of the hydrogen is gone. And then you end up with a planet atmosphere, which could be seen as a bit boring, which is what you expect right now for most of the rocky planets. And then something happened. It's a bit magical. It's a prebiotic element, and then life pops up and is successful. It's quite interesting because it's not given that life is successful. You can imagine life start, fail, and maybe started on Mars and Venus and just disappear. And the idea of life has an eternity concept onto a planet, well, for the time at least of the living time of the sun. It's not a given. Well, it happened that on the Earth, that's it. I think life completely get in and terraform the atmosphere. I know it's very, very difficult to remove life from the Earth until the sun starts to touch the planet. So it's quite a fascinating stories, and I think what's even more fascinating, and I stole this picture from a study report about the space missions called LUVOR, is when you look at the planet, like the Earth, at different stages, and it goes like a clock here, well, you have a very different response what you see from the planet. And you see different phases, different time of the planet, before you have something alive, the beginning of life, and then now. And the reason why I show this diagram is we're not talking about sub-digit here. The effect is massive. It's huge. I mean, you don't need to be expert into planetology, atmosphere to realize when I show you any of these spectra that they're different. It's pretty clear. So this is really what it is here. I think the idea that you can get something out of the planet looking at the atmosphere is related to this concept. Of course, you don't get it all. There's something you will never know. You maybe get the perceptions which is only the upper element of the atmosphere, which will be the case of Venus, for example. We don't know very much about the bottom or the surface of Venus, because this is the only thing we see is the top atmosphere, and we can be fooled by this. But that's what we can do. And actually, when you connect that with the fact that we are detecting, was mentioned early on, so many planets, and we will be doing it even more, and I think in 100 years we get a complete picture of the planet around the stars around us, I think this becomes fascinating, because we can connect the dots and say, oh, let's have a look at the evolution of a planet, and let's find out what we're going to get. So now you can think about the planet itself, and you'll be right, it's a geophysical problem. But you cannot disconnect the geophysics from the chemistry on the surface, especially when the chemistry takes over and becomes alive, because this is part of the planet. So life is part of a planet. So as a geophysicist, you can't split the two. They are connected, and there's quite a lot of geophysicists that are working on this between world impacting about the impact of life on the planet. No, there's even more. There's all the sociological element, the Anthropocene. We are moving into that right now, and even us, we're changing completely the situations of the planet, which is interesting because it could be also a way to find out something is going on the planet, which is alive. So this is really what it is here. Now, the challenge here is, what does it mean in astrophysics? Well, I just show you this because it pops up 2 days ago, so I think it's fun to give you a little bit of heads up if you're not aware of this. This is a kind of planet, nobody thought about it. How funny. I mean, we have this story since 25 years, and we never thought about that. Oh, yeah, it exists. Well, this is what my colleagues Madhu call a hyacinth, which is hydrogen ocean. That's a planet which is boring Neptune, so many Neptunes, if you think this way. It turns out that it's the first time methane is detected so bluntly into a planet. So it's a world premiere that methane's an element that could be related to life, CO2 methanes, you see, is detected. And there's even more. A lot of stuff is being detected on that one. Have a look at the paper. The reason why I mentioned that is there's many ways to understand this. One way is maybe a surface down into the planet and an ocean. It's not sure it's liquid. It could be in another state. But the point here is we are entering into a fascinating area, because when you still start thinking about that, it demonstrates that, yes, a spectra can be measured on a planet. And it doesn't have to be a small planet like the Earth. It could also be something a bit bigger. So today, just barely starting the data of James Webb Space Telescope, we're already getting that. So I cannot imagine in 5 years what we're going to get. I cannot imagine what we're going to get when the ELT will be there. So a tremendous change. So we are into this exponential exploration level here. And I think your program, which is focusing on a new generation of instruments, is right on the spot, because you will build up, I think, the foundations of what comes next along this kind of line. Now, when talk about life, it's kind of a broad topic and a bit out of my comfort zone here, but I just want to share some thought about this. The problem we're having is that one. Usually when you think about a tree of life, you see that as a tree. But when you bring the earth science element and the astrophysics, there's a time scale. It's a 3D element. And you see the time here and the result of where. And the more you move at the outskirt of this diagram, you move it to something which is today. If you're looking where we are, it's over there. Human. Oh, sorry. I just want to just press the wrong button. Sorry for that. What is the one? This one. Yeah, this is human here. We're just here, right? So what is interesting is in the course of the evolution of life on Earth, you have these explosions and diversity of life as we see it today. Now the challenge here is today you see that part all along here. You see all of this. So the question we can ask is how far, when you look at this is telling you anything about what's going on there. And frankly, people have been trying to do that in the past 50, 60 years. And there has been almost zero progress on that because it's tremendously difficult. You are completely in a fog of war here. You don't see it. You don't see what is really going at the beginning of this. So there is all the question about the explosion of life, why this, and I think the biologists are fascinating for that very moment when you start having all the global evolutions, what's going on, and we keep finding, life that we've never thought it would exist on Earth, and there's a lot of growing element about molecular biology these days, but it's still facing the same problem. And the challenge why it's difficult, and that's also another interesting learning curve, life, as of today, cannot be made from scratch. It hasn't happened. And there is a famous French physicist or biologist that was not far from here, which Henri Pasteur, who demonstrated very properly. You don't make life out of nothing. There's nothing happening, or there is something already there. So the reason why we have life and keep developing life is because it's alive, and life is making life. So we're just replicating. We're not making life today on Earth. We're just replicating, and then endless replicating, and evolving and replicating. That's what is going on right now. But life doesn't happen. At least nobody has found any evidence on Earth right now, in any place people have looked at, about life being made from scratch. And there may be good reason for that, because at the time life started to appear and pop up on Earth, Earth was more like that than it was today. So the conditions, both on the surface and the atmosphere, were drastically different. So there is an element of learning element here, which to have life happening the way we see it on Earth, that's maybe that kind of stuff you should find out. And how likely do we have other planets that would behave in a similar way in terms of atmospheric composition here? So what people are trying to do is they re-engineer life. They start from this element. They say, can we make life from that? And it's a whole topic, and there's a lot of activities that's been going on. I don't want to spend too much time, but there is three kind of schools, let's say in this way. The size of the schools depends on what I do think right now is the field opinions of the origin of life, the likely starting ground. One is very popular, is the one on the bottom of the oceans. It's pretty cool, a nice picture. And it's promoted by Andy Lane, and there's a lot of stuff, but practically there's tons of problem with this assumption right now. There's less and less people really seriously thinking that is the reason for the origin of life. The other one is this famous experiment, Miller-Urey. It's still a valid experiment. You can debate about what exactly it produced, but definitely there's an interesting element here. The challenge of this experiment is the assumption about the nature of the atmosphere was wrong. I think the assumption is the atmosphere was energy rich. You know, when you make chemistry, and if you're not chemist, you have to move electrons around, so you have to eat and to shake or to irradiate. That's the only way to make chemistry happen here. So there the element is the atmosphere was extremely rich. It's called highly reduced, and then you have this chemistry. You have some spark, and then you have this chemistry going on. The problem is the chemistry you had at that moment was unstable. We know that if you fill the planet with that kind of chemistry, it will not stay for very long, and then it will become neutral, and there will be no enough energy to do it. But there is plenty of way to regenerate this kind of special chemistry by cometary impact. So it's not impossible. At a very early stage, there is some interesting chemistry going on related to origin of life, or some element that's being produced that way. On the top of that, there is some interesting satellite on giant planet in the solar system for which this chemistry is happening. So there is a lot of interest. Titan and Enceladus, all these places are very fascinating because you kind of prompt partially this kind of methane chemistry you have here. So still a very experimental work, but not sure how it itself is enough. Now, the core program right now is called the HCN chemistry. So HCN is seen as the holy grail to start the origin of life. There has been a lot of paper right now in the last 10 years on this. And the semantic paper is 2017 that kind of defined the rule and all the interaction between the illumination from the sun combined with the surface chemistry. So it's a surface chemistry going on into pond, lake, river with accumulations of matter and a lot of interesting combination of mineralogy, chemistry, and all this together that you produce this kind of systematic chemistry on the earth, producing all the component and going from the nucleotide to amino acids to the lipids that is going down for the cells. So this is really what people are looking at. And what's fascinating with this one, as an astrophysicist, is there is a close connection with the planetary scenario element. So you need some specifics, planetary constraint for this to happen. And some of the specific planetary constraint can be probed by the atmosphere of the planet. So as an astrophysicist, you can bring some element connected to that to see how likely similar condition for the chemistry of life is happening on another planet. And then if you can demonstrate this is related, as if one day somebody demonstrates this is a pathway, that's it. You've connected the dot. You can likely guess that at least the origin of the unit of life, the foundation element, are likely to be the same. Doesn't mean the end product will be exactly the same, but at least the foundation element is likely to be the same. It's kind of an optimization problem. You always go to the optimization problem. And the chemistry you do on Earth is the same on the far side of the galaxy. If this is just a minimum energy chemistry, it's exactly the same story here that goes on. So this is what we have. Now, we have also something fascinating, is Mars. And the reason why it's fascinating is not because we're landing on Mars, it's cool, I think beauty picture, a lot of great studies. But always really great if we're going to bring back sample for Mars, which is not the sample we usually get, which is pre-processed and cometary impact. This is the raw sample in a context. So if you are astrobiologist into this or if you are doing geophysics studies, you know how much the context where you take something matters. Depending on the pH, depending on the chemistry around, the chemistry you have on your sample is dramatically different. So that's why it's essential that the probe is going to a specific place, know exactly what they're doing, dig a hole, get something. The frustration element is they don't dig very deep. It's about the pen size. So they don't go very deep here. So whether they will get a lot by doing that, we'll know, but at least we'll bring it. And the last time we did that, it was 50 years ago when we brought moon sample. We never brought something from another big body. We had a bit of stellar dust coming and cometary element just brought back on Earth, but not that level. And who knows? I mean, the level of study that will come, what we're going to find out. Maybe some element of chemistry, possibly prebiotic chemistry. This site where the lander is pretty clearly used to be full of water. You kind of guess just by looking at who it looks like. There is obvious evidence that has been published recently about there has been water. There's a long list of elements in terms of geophysics that demonstrate this is the case, with a very interesting diversity of the chemistry here. So this is a very interesting element. Now, the challenge here is I'm talking about complete drastically different topic. I'm talking about Mars, planetary science, I'm talking about biology, I'm talking about experimental work, I'm talking about astrophysics using James Webb Space Telescopes. And that's exactly the problem of the field. It's very, very complicated. And every bit of element is talking to another. You cannot decouple them. You can do your own stuff in every topic, but at some point you're looking at the other one because you want to connect to something you know, and something we know very well is Earth. So you always want to bring back on Earth, you want to understand what are geophysics, and you want to just elaborate from that, maybe simulate in your lab what's going on in different conditions. And that is really where the field is going and needs to go. Now, astronomy is making tremendous progress. I just play a trick here. I just combine three elements, which is time-wise completely wrong, because I took an old picture. I was stimulated by Carl Sagan's idea to look back at Earth, famous blue dot. I took a picture of the ELT, which was mentioned, this is being built. It's not exactly like that, but not so long in the future it will be exactly like that. And I took a picture of something that some of us may dream one day looking, is using the ELT, resolving a planet like that, and a nearby stars, and making that spectra. This is not crazy. This is going to happen. You don't break any law of physics by doing that. You just need a bit of technology at the right moment. doing the right way. And this is what the astronomy will do. Now, how far we'll be able to understand that, that's another game. And how far this will be related to the true nature of life on the planet, that's also another game. But this is going to happen. So I think we have a responsibility, I mean, in this room. I don't see very young people, but we have a responsibility toward them because I don't think we're ready to exploit this data. I don't think we have built up the knowledge to think that properly. Of course, you can say, okay, let's go to oxygen and that kind of stuff. We keep hearing that for 30 years, but let's go serious here. Let's really think about it. Planet can be a bit different, chemistry can be different. We go to maybe another kind of planet, and what does it mean in terms of chemistry? I mean, we have been seeing the phosphine stuff about Venus recently. I mean, is it abiotic? Is it biologically relevant? So this gives you a little bit of a sense what is going to happen, but in much bigger scale. Because here we're talking about spending billions to build such a machinery. So if you spend billions to build the machinery, we should consider spending billions getting ready also to see what we're going to get and to understand what we're going to get. So that is really the big challenge, is are we ready to exploit this data? And I just went through a couple of questions. I mean, we can change them, but where and what should we be looking at? Atmosphere, okay, easy, we saw it before. Surface of a planet, some planet we only see the surface. Well, subsurface is fascinating because there's a lot of stuff going on. Remember, most of the biology is on the subsurface, it's not visible from top. So how does it connect? How could you connect subsurface to a surface to atmosphere? There's a lot of interesting idea here, and the volcanic activity is quite fascinating as well there. A lot of solar system objects, I say S, because a lot of places you want to study, depending on what you want to do, it's something we can do, we can go. Which one? Is it a priority order here? Should we be obsessed by Enceladus? Go there. Dig hole and find out, or should we go to Titan, should we go to Mars again, and should we go to Venus, or whatever. I mean, it's just interesting. Biomarkers. I always feel uneasy about doing biomarkers because I don't believe there is a single biomarker. So I think there is a complexity of elements that tend to send you a message about possibility of life on the planet. But the biomarkers, I think it's a dangerous word to use, but it's been mentioned many times, so I just put it here. I think we have to seriously consider life comes and go, and can we see the imprint of instinct life? And that's very relevant for Mars. I don't think there is life on Mars, but whether there has been some beginning of life on Mars, how do we see it? What should we be looking at? Well, don't think about fossil, it's too easy. Huh? There's something else here you have to look at. So it's interesting questions in terms of chemistry, in terms of some detailed analysis of chemistry detail and some balancing nucleotides, something that's a bit different. And then there's all this idea of laboratory experiments. So I think we really need a lot of laboratory experiments to simulate the atmosphere of planets and to understand what we're doing. I don't think we have the data. I don't think we can do anything in a computer enough right now. We need real data. And there's a long list of missing data to do that work properly. What equipment do you need? Lab work, there's maybe some specific lab. We know the famously Mars sample return specific lab that maybe some of you, I know the French community is very deeply involved into this mission, so maybe there's something to help on that. Maybe some special research and development specific for us. You want to fly a space mission that's going to make a picture of a planet. Well, do we have all the components ready? And what are we missing? What do we need to develop, to push? Can we agree on this? So we want to go to some system and sample returns. Should we be happy on Mars and keep digging Mars, or should we do something else? That's good questions. And of course, what maybe future ground and space observatory do we have in mind? So ELTs, no? Okay, what's come next? And what comes after the James Webb Space Telescope? So there's a lot of going on activity there. But above all, and I really put that at the bottom, I think the big challenge, and that we can do now, we can start now, we need a profound change of mindset and a new generation of researcher on that, because this is not the way science works. You are born physicist, you are born chemist by the education that you have been given. And I know quite well the French system, and it's even worse for the French system, that tend to channel people on specifics. So that is limiting progress. I mean, if as a physicist I cannot understand a minimum of the chemistry equation going on, I understand nothing. As a chemist doesn't understand a minimum of planetary formations, and he wants to relate the chemistry of a planetary atmosphere, I think this chemistry is wrong. and so on and so on. So this is really what we think about it, and we can all do our own homework on this. And that is kind of an idea floating around. Some people have been already expanding on that, but it's not part of the design culture of most of the educations. So we try to get in one picture what we need to do. And I like this because I think it gives you a bit of a flavor where we're going. So let me just write through this picture. So at the middle is a goal. So the goal is we want to understand life, maybe alternative architectures, biosignature, connection with the planetary ecologies, all evolution of life, and then we want to understand all this going together. This is really what we're trying to get at the end. So we only one example is life on Earth. So to get that, you need to connect a lot of dots. You need to get the planet, you need to get the chemistry, and you need to look about the possibility of different kind of ecological niche, looking at other planets that have different structure. Of course, they're all connected together because to understand the planet, you need to connect the chemistry. To understand the planet, you need to go the inside of the planet. You need to go geophysics. Of course, geophysics connected to the chemistry, and so on and so on and so on. So there's all a lot of diagram going in all direction here. And depending on what you do, you may do something with some people, another one with other people. And on top of that, you have also this kind of emotional, and it was mentioned by the first talk by Madame le Ministre, which is the philosophical elements, this kind of idea that you're dealing with something that's very profound and very fundamental. And a couple of challenges about the definitions and concepts, and you really are battling against this. Three battling elements is fight the concept, the definition of jargons. I mean, there's a lot of jargons that we use without really noticing it, and it makes us difficult to communicate. How do we increase the communication? Because discipline was mentioned by my colleagues before, and then all the philosophical preconceptions. I had a chat with one of my philosophers in Cambridge recently, and I mentioned, I mentioned the word cradle of life, the berceau de la vie in French. I think it's cool, and it's something, but cradle, and what do you mean by that? And then you realize there's an implicit element that there's a kind of a specific place and something specific going on. And I realized I was a philosophical preconceptions, because maybe it's not what it works. Maybe it's a network, which is a diffuse network, that end up at some point a kind of event, and then this event being another event, and then it just build up this kind of momentum situation. So there's a lot of very interesting element here we're trying to address. So this is for all this reason, this is about my introduction, that we have established centers, is to try to fix a problem that I cannot fix with a given resource that the structure of the academia are given to me. So there is two centers I can talk about, because it's two I built not alone. There is a big team behind. I have fantastic colleagues. One is ETH, the other one is in Cambridge. They connected because we started Cambridge, and then I connect, and then I talk about it in ETH, and then we decided to do the same, and then my life became complicated. They say split my life between these two places, and this is what I'm doing right now. But it's about the similar kind of activity with small twist. They're all quite well funded. It's more than 1 million a year. I'm going there. If you want more detail, I don't have time to go through all the details. Just go to the website. You get quite a lot of. But I want to go to a couple of punchline, because I think the punchline are relevant here. So what do we want to do? And they're about the same for each of them. The first one, we want to offer a wide range of networking activities. What does it mean, a wide range of activity? It means for any scale and age, and also in any kind. It means could be visitors, could be workshops, could be anything. And we will implement, some of them has been implemented. We have already a couple of nice visiting programs. So have a look at the web page and apply if you want to visit these places. That's what we've done, similar as a program. Now, we want also to offer a flexible support to conduct research program. What it means is you cannot fight against the resource of any funding agencies, because they're spending billions on science in general. But you can twist the system. You can maybe invest money and demonstrate that this is quite amazing, and then the people that got the money then can apply later with a bit more focused idea and get successful. So it's really a seeding mechanism, because it's not only altogether we're spending 2 million a year. It's nothing. Think about the ERC budget and all this. You're not going to fix the problem. It's 2 million a year. It's just nothing. But it's enough to build a program, especially a program that seems really crazy because they're really in between field and nobody understands that. So you build up this minimum element that makes, and the way we operate that, because we believe nobody has enough knowledge at the preconception of the center to define what to do, we build up a center with money, but no money is being distributed from the beginning. Everybody has to apply for it. So it's a trick, because then, given the evolution of the progress, you can adjust. It's very agile. But you also use this for people to get used to learn and get to understand why they didn't get funded and to just understand how they can be helpful. It's kind of a building up mechanism that we're trying to do here. It's an educational program at the same time. So this is why we went to this competitive program. And because we want to be competitive and not feel that we biases, we go to outside the referees to get opinions, to decide who gets funded. So it's a bit of a crazy idea, but we get the money for us, but we're not deciding who spent the money. It's somebody outside the centers, and maybe some of you have received maybe an email from me and say, could you help me on this proposal? Or they will, if they have not done yet, because we're doing that every year. We focus on PhD and young scientists. And the reason why we do that is I think the future of this field is not into me and most of the people in this audience, is then the generation that is not yet in this audience, that may come later. How do we do to help them? What we call producing the pipeline. It means a range of elements from the undergrads, graduate students, and senior scientists, and then later on trigger enough momentum into academia, then they get permanent positions. So this is really the idea. We got lucky in ETH, we get this NOMIS Foundations that is supporting 2 or 3 new fellows every year. I will show you the advert. If you know somebody, please apply. And it's an independent fellowship program, and they can come for 3 to 4 years if they are working on this. And that's one way and to do that. In Cambridge, I will show you, we have created an MPhil program to get the early stage career interested into the field, and I will show you after. Now, the way we did the center is a bit different from what you've heard before. They are co-located. So they are really physically in ETH, and they're physically in Cambridge. We have connections. We have called spokes, which is connections with people that are also part of the center. But the reason why it's co-located is because it's so complicated to get the network going already by asking people to walk 20 minutes from one building to another one. So I did not want to go farther than 20 minutes walking distance, essentially, to start establishing the core network. And that is something you have to be careful here in your program, certainly, is difficult to make people moving. Because, well, they're just happy where they are. And why do they go to a meetings? And especially it's a weekly meeting. Are you going to go every week to Paris for a meeting? You're not, right? So, and Zoom is okay, but it's not the same after some time. This kind of Zoom fatigue is kind of getting a bit everywhere these days. So I think the collocation is one of the key and the specifics, and that's been followed by other centers as well. It doesn't mean they don't open, and we will be working with everybody, and they will come maybe later during these meetings. And we had a discussion to try to how we can see how we can work together, but still the collocation is very essential, I think. Now, one other element to produce a permanent position that was mentioned before, I think we want to be influential into the department. So it means you have to bang the door constantly about explaining what you're doing. We have to be visible. It's a trick between visible scientifically, mediatically, pushing, demonstrating we're useful, and in a way that at some point they open position. Because it's not enough to produce PhD if they have no job at the end. And that's kind of a general priority. Of course, it's part of the build-up. I would have never built a center in these 2 places without a mandate from the institutions that they will. So we have a couple of pledges that has been made to establish professorship in these positions and moving around. We've been one. We managed to get one already in Cambridge, which now is held by Paul Rimmer, if you know Paul. And the plan for ETH is to build up 6 professorships over the next 5 years. Next is about curriculum. So we need to develop a new curriculum, clearly, because we cannot continue the way we do. We need to open opportunities. It's complicated because it's not easy to intervene into the teaching element, and depending on the institution, it can be really complicated. The way we did that, we started an MPhil in Cambridge, so it's very successful. It was a big surprise. It takes 2 or 3 years usually to do that. MPhil, if you're not familiar, it's something that comes between a master, kind of a master that goes to prepare a PhD in between. a bit of a master plus, and usually it takes a long time, but people just went through all the committee. They were so excited about that, so they decided to put that on. So it will be open soon. A new textbook, and it's still in the process, but I can just maybe give you a bit of a headline on this. We're planning a series of books, and the plan is to get 60 right now, and that we're able to sign the formal agreement with Cambridge University Press on that topic, because we're missing it. There's a lot of astrobiology related stuff, but not very much on a global scale for that Origins program. So we're trying to fix that with the way we are. Of course, we're not going to write all the books. We're going to talk to the community to find people willing to work. It will be short, open source books, this new format that Cambridge University Press decided to promote. Fast turnover, we don't want to take forever. And we want the book to be free for the students, open source. And of course, a very important point, and I think you should really consider that always on target, we need to raise the interest of funding partners. Funding partner being private, also institutional. So it means constantly explaining what we're doing in a way we just promote the whole program together. And that is really key because it's not enough. We really need more support and for increasing the networking, and there is a hope that at some point some of these centers will become foundations, and there's discussion right now at ATR whether it should become kind of a constant structure available as an institutions. And that's one of the elements. Cambridge is also discussing this. They promise a building for us. Just we'll see. I mean, there's a lot to do. We just started, but I think we should be ambitious. And any of these centers' activity should aim high. Whether it will be successful, I don't know. But at least we should really go that way. I want to end up with two adverts, just for you to be aware. Just to you two practical elements, which is now online. The first one is the fellowship program. It's now online. So if you know some people interested for that, it's for young scientists. There has to be no more than 4 years after PhD. It's a 4 years research budget, independent program hosted by a professor at ETH, and they can apply until 10 November. We will have 3 this year. We had 1 last year. We have up to 3, and every year we have 2 or 3. And in a rolling mechanism, we should end up with 10, 12 at the same time. That's really the idea. Because I do believe this is where is the core of our activity. We should promote that. I heard that Harvard managed to establish the same with the Kavli Foundations, and they have 2 or 3, I think. Just have a look at this. So there is ways if you have ideas, and of course this is in the spirit, so you can do whatever you like. It could be chemistry, astrophysics, earth science. I mean, it's completely open, and that's the good idea, as far as you're on the topic. The other one is this new program that's about to be announced. It's an MPhil program in Cambridge that will be announced a couple of weeks, and to exactly cover. So the idea is to offer to the students that come from different backgrounds. There is a minimum requirement, but it could be chemistry, physics, earth science, and they want to get up a kind of enough global information what's going on together. Then they will be in a position maybe to apply for a PhD successfully later on, and to grant to conduct a PhD program. We want to help a little bit that process. We need to develop curriculum and teaching reference, and this is connected with the textbooks elements. Hopefully this will be helpful for many of you as well. And that's one of the efforts led by Oli Shuttle in Cambridge. If you want to know more, here's the website. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Didier. You remind us the task is challenging, and you can still twist the system, so it's something to remember. I had a question maybe on the long term, because here we have a time constraint initiative, short time for these centers. How do you foresee a long-lasting initiative like this? How do you manage long-lasting initiatives?
That's a very, very interesting question, because it has been my obsession from the day one, and we just have 1 year right now of operation. The Leverhulme is funded for 10 years, and I started to talk to them right away. I say, what comes next? And they told me, oh, we don't really know. We never thought about that. So right now they don't really know. The challenge here is we branded Leverhulme Center, because Leverhulme fundings. So either they want to become like an institution's element, and they kind of make a deal with University of Cambridge, which is possible. And then that's it. We are forever. And for ATR, this depends essentially of what is going to happen in the next couple of years, whether we're convincing efficient. We could well see this as an opportunity to establish formal parent activity of ATR, which will be between departments to help, which means technically streamline of funding that I don't have to fight for. That's really what it is at the end. But it's too early, but that's really my goal. So I'm obsessed by that. I must say it takes a lot of my time. And really you should think about that because it's irrelevant to flourish and to collapse after. And that's one of the big challenge of all these initiatives. And we should really think from the beginning how to fix that. But I don't have magic recipes.
No. Okay.
I'm sorry. I would love to.
Thanks. We'll take questions in the room. Okay.
Yes, thank you for this talk. You say something in the middle quite interesting, saying that the next generation or the next step would be to include new researchers, new people, new ideas, and at the end, suddenly you list a certain number of disciplines, but there are no biologists. And I don't know how many biologists there are in this room, but I don't think there are many biologists in this room. So this is exactly the problem that we have with the origin of life. It is that physicists, we are physicists, they are extremely compressed by this idea that the universe is united with a few laws and everything is deterministic.
Okay, hold on. I think if I give you this impression is wrong because the biologists are part of this initiative, absolutely part of it. One of my co-directors, she's a biologist, is Emeline Bolmont. She's studying, she's very well known about the first animal on Earth. So we need the biologists because who can talk better about life than the biologists? So I'm absolutely convinced. And again, because of the reason I mentioned, you can study the origin of life. Once you make life, so what? Does it mean that you survive, you evolve? So this is start the biology here. So biology, yes. It tends to be a lot of microbiology, but yes, they're part of it, absolutely part of it. I mean, there's a lot of partners that are doing biology element and
but the point, excuse me, but my point is that biologists, especially evolutionary biologists, should come to the prebiotic field and try to understand with us what's going on. Otherwise, it's going to fail. I mean, it's not going to work.
No, but they do. I think here in this, you see the life stuff. I think we do have biologists into that. I think it may be a local problem you're talking about, but it's not the case. I mean, I'm not saying we interest all the whole biology because it's huge. Biology is huge. But yes, the biology are working with us. There are a series of biology, all the epigenetic stuff. They're fascinating about that. So there's a lot of stuff that is relating with the biology. So they're part of the game. If I didn't mention biology, it's a mistake. So I made. So apologize for the mistake. They're absolutely part of the game. But you know what? I'm trying to get aware of this biology, earth science, microbiology, because now it becomes very complicated. There's a lot of subdivision into that. I don't really care, frankly. What I do care is whether you work on that topic. And whatever is your background is irrelevant to me, whatever is the name of your lab is irrelevant to me, as far as you work on that kind of topic. And that's why in terms of institutions, it requires a long process. And I'm battling, I can tell you, against institutions, because a lot of people that holding the control of the institutions, they are head of dean of one department, they don't want to give up. And we will have to push them a little bit aside to make room for this more complex way to do science. But I have a good news for you. We're not the only one. So there's other big topics. They've already been successful. And in a way, we're very slow in that topic. If you talk to people doing all these studies of the diversity of the microbiologies, and the microbiologies, they're working with physicists, mathematicians, the sociologists, they're working with mathematicians, physicists, and they do a lot of people studying the brain. They're also very combined. They have also multiple teams. So there's a lot of work that is being done, which is mixed. But in that topic, I mean, you want to get my feeling why it has been the case, because I think we'd be trapped by astrobiology too long. Astrobiology was a defined vision by NASA in the 70s to understand Mars. And I think it has been difficult for the field to get away from that. For a good reason, because the money would go to astrobiology, and that's it, and nothing else, nothing more. And I think now we have been out of this, because it's not the case anymore. In NASA, it's still a core topic. But now there is way more diverse activity here which is being done. So hopefully we will evolve and develop, and we welcome the astrobiology activities, but it's true, it's just part of the game. But it should not be central to the game. That's just my point. But the biology, if there is some biologists in the room, please feel free to interact. I mean, or maybe to say something, but it's just the opposite. Don't feel really put aside. And if you have some colleagues that believe they've been put aside, I mean, you should talk them through and bring them in.
Okay, thank you very much. I will stop here because we have other people to talk. Thanks a lot. So the next person is Felipe Gomez. He will talk about the Institute for Astrobiology in Madrid. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Muriel about the kind invitation to be here and to have the opportunity to present the Astrobiology Center, which is located in Madrid. This is the building, the main building. And then the word astrobiology, as having discussed before. I think several efforts like Origins is taking place right now in Europe, which is, I think Europe is realizing that this effort needs to be maintained for the future, because we have a knowledge and expertise on this field. And I would like to congratulate you for this effort, for this Origins project, which is really interesting. We recommend a lot of collaborations for the future with different institutions in Europe. 7 years is a very short period of time, then it's a lot of work to do, and but it's an amazing effort and the work in astrobiology. How to present Astrobiology Center in Madrid is really difficult because we are very wide, very diverse. We are working in different areas, really different areas. Then I think something which could be interesting for the discussion that we are having here right now is just to tell a few words about the history of Astrobiology Center. It was an effort started by Dr. Juan Pérez Mercader in 1998, and this effort was made because there was an open call from, at that moment, NASA Astrobiology Institute, belonging to NASA, in order to have the possibility to integrate an astrobiology center virtually. It was not, NASA at that moment was not thinking on to do something in a building. But Dr. Juan Pérez Mercader, our former director, was thinking on that, and in 1998 he presented a proposal to have a center, a physical center with a building inside the NASA Astrobiology Institute, but out of the frontiers of states. That proposal was approved, and then the Astrobiology Center began to run. It was inaugurated in 2003 by our former president, José María Aznar, and we developed two different centers. One, which is the central, is this building, which is located in Torrejón de Ardoz, which is the east part of Madrid, so like 20 kilometers from Madrid. And we have another one, and something like a spin-off, which is a Astrobiology Center located in the European Space Agency Center, ESAC, in Villafranca del Castillo. Then we have two. At that moment, 1998, we started to do brainstorming, how to organize all these really difficult effort. And we developed this kind of diagram, because what is astrobiology? We were discussing right now. It's really difficult for example, what is life? It's really difficult. I think, in fact, we don't know what is life. Then the brainstorming was, at that moment, a diagram about astrobiology from the Big Bang to the origin of molecules, prebiotic chemistry, chemical complexity, life and evolution of life. And with this diagram, we started to depict what we want to do for the future. And we convert that in objectives. Which are the main objectives of right now in our work? Is the building blocks of the universe formation and evolution of galaxies, the cycle of chemical elements from interstellar medium to stars and planets, potential habitable planetary environments, searching for biomarkers in planetary environments, the basic principles of life, origin, adaptation, evolution, and its limits, and instrumentation for remote and in situ planetary exploration and characterization. And this was the scheme that Dr. Juan Pérez Mercader took for inviting people to join the Astrobiology Center. What does this mean? That at the end, we have astrophysics, we have geologists, we have biologists, we have chemists, we have all practically the whole different expertise on this kind of work. Which was the worst part? That you have to interact, something which is tremendously important, is interdisciplinary. You have to interact with a geochemist, a geologist, an astrophysics, an engineer, and it's not easy to understand the language of an engineer, for example. At the very beginning, we started to learn from the others. Every of us has to pass through a very strong and hard process in which you were to have to understand, to learn to understand an engineer. And what is the idea of Dr. Juan Pérez Mercader? The idea was to basically to have the possibility to do science, to collaborate in international networks, to collaborate in space missions, and to develop technology, something that was crucial for them. Then, final structure was this. All that I previously presented is represented in this structure. We have 4 different departments, from the astrophysics, molecular biology, planetology and habitability, and advanced instrumentation. This is the reason why I told at the very beginning that it's really difficult to understand, to introduce you Astrobiology Center, because we are working in very different areas of expertise regarding origins, origin of life, origin of the universe, evolution, and so on. Then, basically, I will summarize our structure, and I will go through different lines, research lines that we have in our departments in order to progress on this really difficult effort of the origins and astrobiology. Astrophysics, formation of evolution of galaxies, interstellar, circumstellar medium, stars, brown dwarfs, and planets, virtual observatory, molecular biology, molecular evolution, prebiotic chemistry, molecular evolution RNA world, evolution studies, molecular mechanism, microbial diversity, biomolecules in planetary exploration. This means, as I said before, very different people working together. Planetology and habitability, geologists, microbiologists, habitable and still environments, advanced instrumentation is crucial to develop instrumentations in order to progress in this field. Space instrumentation. At the very end, right now, we are practically 200 people, from seniors, postdocs, PhD students, technicians, technical assistants, with different labs. What that this means that we have a tremendous effort in science, working to try to taking advantage of the data we receive from the different space missions, but we already have modeling people, theorists, experimental people, laboratories in chemistry, in geology, in biology, biochemical, instrumentation, different instruments that we have done in the past decades in order to collaborate in space missions. Right now, 45% of the people on the center is females. I think more or less we are in the 50-50, not already get the real 50-50 percentage, but progression. Something really important, money. We have several, starting from the very beginning, The idea is not to obtain the budget. We have more or less 5 to 8 million budget per year. But this idea is not with the main focus on funding the science. It's only for developing, for example, the techniques, the instrumentation, and so on. For the science itself, we have to apply to different proposals, open calls, grant, and so on. For example, from this money, really few percentage is for hiring people. From hiring people, we need to apply to external grants and open calls and so on. But we have been going increasing from the very beginning. Can you see, like a wave? And right now, in 2022, this was basically affected by the crisis, the virus crisis. But right now, we are recovering, and we have different kind of investment from different institutions, mainly from CSIC. We belong to two really big institutes. CSIC, which is our National Research Council, basically quite similar to CNRS, and INTA, which is the Instituto Nacional Técnico Espacial, this is the Aerospace Technical National Institute. This, right now, we are developing in Spain the space agency, but till now, quite similar to the space agency was INTA. INTA is the National Technical Aerospace Institute. From both institutions, we have provided different kind of funds in order to develop and to collaborate in different, as I said before, in the different missions and progress. Regarding our results, here is a diagram basically about our papers, the main field of in which we are publishing. We publish from, we publish from physics to astronomy, earth and planetary science, engineering. I mean, this reflects exactly the wide diversity of our institute on this field. Our collaborations, we are involved in several space missions. Basically, here is a summary, a very brief summary, with supporting science and technology in astronomy and astrophysics. Something which is really important is the technological part. We are developing technology for different kind of missions. We have co-PIs with INTA, for example, in Plato, in James Webb Space Telescope, in ExoMars, in MMX, by HASA, Cheops, Safari, and Harmony for ELT. This is the astrophysical part. At the same time, we have as well several instruments on Mars missions, basically in Curiosity, in Mars 2020, Perseverance, and InSight. We have strong collaboration. Some results, very briefly, because it's not, I think it's not here's a picture from one of our papers, which is a system, PDS 70 systems, in which there is a couple of planets. PDS 70b is a cloud of dust. The mass is practically twice our moon. And there was a result obtained by our colleague Olga Basalobre-Ruza, in which was possible to demonstrate the more robust evidence of the Paris planet can form and to share a path around and start. It's some very brief results on this. As I said before, we contribute to the James Webb Space Telescope through science. We have two principal investigations, Luis Colina and Santiago Rivas, from two different instruments in this mission. And, for example, other results, quite interesting results, a contribution from our science. This picture, in which here appears the results from the James Webb Space Telescope, Hubble Space Telescope, and ALMA, the Atacama Large Millimeter Array, in which the primitive universe obscured galaxies that are immersed in stellar nurseries, and it's possible to see the development of really early stage of the universe. This is a system which is located 13 billion years of light. Some of our colleagues. Another interesting result that we have in the last years is the study of the black holes, in particular a system which is 250 million light years of a black hole, in which it was quite interesting because in 2010 it was possible to identify X-ray signals quasi-periodically, and finally it was possible to demonstrate that these radiation emissions, it was related with absorption of stars. This is the GCN 069 system. Technology. Our idea is to support the development of technology. We have several simulation facilities from very easy between columns system to simulate Mars atmosphere. We have a chamber which is Mars atmosphere simulation chamber, in which is possible to mimic practically the conditions on the surface of Mars. But at the same time, we have some instruments in which we can mimic the surface of Europe, or Europa Moon, in Jupiter systems. And at the same time, we have another system in which we can mimic the conditions on the interstellar space conditions. This means basically the possibility to do some kind of experiments with dust, interstellar dust, the interaction with the radiations and the evolution and origin of prebiotical compounds. It's something in which we are really strong, the development of this kind of techniques. And some other part of the science in which we are involved, we are quite strong as well in Earth analogous work. This means, I think one of the first and the main analog that we were studying was Rio Tinto. Probably some of you already know this river is a river in the southwest of Spain, 100-kilometer river, which the colors of the river is red. It's a very dark red color, which means Rio Tinto, the name came from a Tinto river. It's like a red wine system. It's really interesting. It was thought to be polluted, completely polluted, and after several works, some colleagues of mine were able to demonstrate that there was a really interesting biodiversity on its waters. At the same time, following in 2004-05, we started a collaboration with NASA Ames Research Center. In this case was coordinated by Professor Carol Stoker, which was a Marte project. I will give some keywords later on about Marte project, and was possible to take samples. The idea was to develop a really big deep, in order to get cores, to get samples from very deep of the area, of the source area of Rio Tinto. And in this particular publication, we were able to demonstrate the possibility to, for example, cyanobacteria located at 600 meters, which is quite controversial because 600 meters cyanobacteria, we all have the idea that cyanobacteria are photosynthesizers. This means that they need radiation, sun radiation. In this particular case, at the same time, we have the controversy of the acidic conditions because it's thought that cyanobacteria are not colonizing acidic environments. This means that all cyanobacteria that we already know are quite neutral, a little bit acidic, but not strong acidic like is Rio Tinto. But in this particular case, I have to say that this sample, very deep, 600 meters, was not acidic. This is a core of a piece of rock in which were possible to demonstrate the presence of cyanobacteria. We had been on Atacama, on Antarctica. In this particular case, some results on microorganisms that are adapted to cold. We have samples Antarctic glaciers or Atacama. This particular case, one of our colleagues, Armando de Bustos, was able to demonstrate that cyanobacteria in the very dry, very hard conditions of dryness in Atacama, it was possible that inside the salts, due to the hygroscopic processes with the liquidization processes, was enough to develop some kind of life. In this particular idea is the cyanobacteria green, bacteria taking advantage of the sun radiation, included in the salts, in small pockets where was possible to sun water to exist due to hygroscopic processes. And as I said before, we are collaborating with 3 space missions. In this picture appears REMS, Rover Environmental Monitoring Station, which is on board of Curiosity rover. We are running this rover since 2012, technology for planetary exploration. And after that, we started a second collaboration in InSight with an evolution of REMS, Rover Environmental Monitoring Station, which is located on the deck. In this case, it's not a rover. And the third collaboration was an evolution of REMS. In this case, is MEDA Mars Environmental Dynamic Analyzer on board Perseverance since February 2021. And we have been able to describe the interaction between the atmospheres, between the atmosphere and the surface of the regolith. And here can be seen the all elements, not all, because there is another one on the rover deck. The booms, which are monitoring the wind, the velocity of the wind, the gas, the temperature of the wind, the humidity of the atmosphere, the temperature of the soil with an infrared thermal emission, and with a collaboration with other groups, was able to determine the velocity and the noise on the atmosphere. And at the same time, due to this strong collaboration with American groups, was possible to follow some dust storms on the surface of Mars. This means that we have 3 instruments running at the same time in Mars. MEDA in Perseverance 2021, Twins InSight in 2018, REMS in Curiosity from 2012 on different parts of Mars. What is next? We are working and trying to collaborate in the Mars sample return. Why? Because with Perseverance, we are taking all the samples that finally will be bring back to Earth to try to analyze these samples. With Perseverance, we are localizing and taking those samples that finally, using 3 different missions, will bring back to Earth in the near future. Some other projects that we are running on CAP, the ones which is called the Mars First Water, which is coordinated by my colleague Alberto González Fairén. Basically, the idea is that as Mars, we already know that Mars was at the very beginning was quite similar twin of the Earth, with strong similarities with Earth, with water presence on the surface. The evolution was completely different to Earth. Then the idea is to try to understand this process and at the same time, if this liquid or solid water, what kind of duration time on the surface and the interaction with the rocks in order to study those weathering processes. This project has been running, and they are publishing interesting results on the interaction using geomorphology, interaction between geochemistry, mineralogy, and the astrobiological part in order to discuss the possibility of this kind of salmuera in order to localize any kind of possibility of life. Of course, they are using Earth analogs on Earth, basically Atacama. These are samples from Atacama Desert, in which the synergy between the interaction of the life and the geology could give us some clues in order to discuss this possibility. And Ramon Mars is another project. In this case, is coordinated by my colleague Prieto Ballesteros, which appears here on this picture. This is a Raman laser spectrometer that is going to be used in 3 different missions. She has collaborations with MMX from HASA, through supercam in Perseverance as well, and as well in the European Space Agency mission to Mars, which will be probably started to run next year. This collaboration comes from the second project that he has, which is a very historical research line in our center, which is the ocean walls. Olga Prieto Ballesteros is working on modelization. In this case, she is studying the surface, the ice surface of Europa Moon on Jupiter system, in which using modelization or using one of our high pressure chambers, simulation chambers, they are developed interesting experiments in order to try to understand or to explain, for example, the diapers, the circle structures and the composition of the water, in this particular case, thermal experiments in order to see the behavior of different kind of composition of water in contact with salts, in order to try to study the structures that appears on the surface, in the ice surface, on the crust of Europa Moon. As I said, modelizing, but as well with experiments in the high pressure simulation chamber that we already have in CAP. As I said before, Marte project. Marte is Mars. We were playing. This is the Spanish word for Marte, Mars, which Mars Analog Research Technology Experiment was a collaboration, a project, and a step field experiment coordinated by Carol Stoker, as I said before, in which NASA was funding a 3 years project. The idea was to dig on the area of the surface area of Rio Tinto, trying to get to the subsurface in the source area of Rio Tinto, in order to do during the 2 first years, in order to do any kind of experiments, in order to try to localize any biosphere completely isolated from the surface, and to prepare the techniques and the digging techniques for a future mission in order to dig on the surface of Mars, not several centimeters as we are doing right now, if not probably several meters or more. The results were quite interesting because we got 600 meters on this collaboration, and as I said, the idea was to search and characterize a subsurface life at Rio Tinto, to perform high fidelity simulation of a robotic Mars, and to demonstrate the drilling, sample handling, and instrument technologies relevant for a Mars surface mission. During the 3rd year, I said before that during the first 2 years, we were digging manually with geologists, but during the 3rd year, it was a simulation of a mission completely automated, not run by humans. The humans were located at the Astrobiology Center in Madrid, in satellite connections with the platform on Rio Tinto in order to develop the drilling capabilities and sample handling, completely automated, and as well in connection with NASA Ames Research Center in order to coordinate the simulation, the complete simulation. The samples were finally were managed in a globe box in anaerobic conditions in order to do all the hard work that I have been explained before. For example, the identification of cyanobacteria in 600 meters and so on. Right now, we are starting a new project in which we want to study the possibilities of the regolith in order to interact with organic molecules and the effect of the protection against radiation. Why? Because we know that the surface of Mars is really stressant, it's very oxidant, and then any kind of biosignature, as we said before, will be really difficult in the interaction between the regolith and the UV radiation on the surface of Mars will be really difficult to survive. Then the idea is to try to run some experiments in order to see the stability of this organic matter. This is an experiment that we developed in one of our chambers. This is the Mars simulation chamber. And in this case, we use regolith simulant, in which we include some chemiotrophic bacteria. I have to say that Rio Tinto is a chemiolithotrophic environment. Translate from Greek means bacteria that is able to chunk rocks in organic matter in order to develop the life cycle. On this experiment, we use this bacteria, Aciditobacillus, and another one which we already know that was really resistant, which is the Deinococcus. And we include inside, and we expose within several hours to the surface, Mars surface conditions, in very hard conditions. There was the atmosphere was completely mimic the surface Mars, the atmosphere of Mars, but at the same time we put a very strong radiation, UV radiation, and practically 100 degrees Celsius below zero. Later on, we have evolved to study the stability of fatty acids or proteins in contact with Mars regolith simulants for what I just said before, which is the stability of these fatty acids, of these amino acids, in contact with the regolith in order to see, for example, the conditions to see, or the final results, once we have exposed to the UV radiation, if the amino acids are protected with the simulant to try to see the evolution and the stability of this organic matter. And at the same time, something which is quite interesting is the site of the grains of the regolith, because depending on the site, the evolution or the behavior of the radiation is quite different. Then we are studying not only the chemistry, the oxidant chemistry that is produced by the interaction with the UV radiation, if not at the same time the effect of the grain site against this radiation. We already collaborate in several kind of outreach. For example, we developed the Astrobiology school, and during the lunch we were discussing about this Astrobiology summer school in Santander. It's a collaboration between NASA and CAP, the Astrobiology Center in Spain, for receiving students from internationally, from different parts of Europe and from the States, in order to organize a 3 days course in Santander in a nice behavior. At the same time, we collaborate with regularly in outreach. For example, we receive each year more than practically all the weeks. In Fridays, we have visits from high schools in order to put in contact our science with very young people. And that's all. Yes, I would like to finish with the institutions that fund and collaborate with us in order to provide us the possibility, and as well Europe, the possibility to develop our work. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So your institute has been operating for quite some time, and we see really nice results, so it's really great to see. Maybe I had a question on training. So is there for a PhD, for instance, or master students, is there a specific program to try to mitigate the difficulty in communicating with different scientific areas?
Yeah, one of the difficulties on this kind of collaboration is, as you said, the interaction between, we have a very strong program on the interaction with students, PhD and grant students, with mentors and so on. It's important to because, for example, we just started a master program in order to have the possibility to develop a program in astrobiology, because it doesn't exist right now for students, in order to prepare early career stage people and young people to being able to understand an engineer, which is not easy, or to understand an astrophysics or a geologist and so on. Then we have several collaborations with programs for graduates and postdoc.
Okay, interesting feedback. Should get in touch and do that properly as well in our program. We'll take one question, and maybe Emeline can start getting settled in the meantime, if there is a question in the room. No question? Okay. Then I'm glad to introduce Emeline Bolmont. From Genève, we will do a presentation on the Center for Life in the Universe. Thank you very much.
Hi. Thank you. I would like to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to present here today our newly, let's say, created center about life in the universe. So we are much, much, much smaller than anything that you've heard so far. It's just the University of Geneva so far, and we have been created 2 years ago. And so basically the story began in 2019 when Michel Mayor and Didier Queloz got the Nobel Prize in Physics for the detection of the first exoplanets around a sun-like star. And basically the University of Geneva wanted to do something out of this opportunity because, as you know, a Nobel Prize is not something that you win every day. And so basically they said, okay, what's the next big thing in exoplanet science? And we said, well, it's to search for life in the universe. And so they decided to create this center to advance the science in that topic. I just wanted to, at first, maybe give you an overview of our center. So right now we have about 30 active researchers going from master students, PhD students, postdocs and professors. We also have some lab technicians and so on. We at the moment we have about 6 ongoing interdisciplinary projects which are externally funded in a way that it's not the university that gives the money for this project, but we have to write proposals and do all this work to have them. But we've managed actually to do that. And it was actually a really nice achievement for us, we thought, because when the center was created, we didn't know each other, basically. We were in the same university, but not talking. And actually, it was Didier Queloz who organized that, but we did the first meeting with all the people that were in principle interested in this question. And it was during COVID, so it was on Zoom. And we started, to introduce what we were working on and our different fields. And very quickly we saw that there were very concrete projects on which we could work on. So the ideas came very early in the process. And I will show you a few examples of projects that were really born during this initial, meeting phase. And that are now funded and that have begun, I think, in September. So yeah, right now we have about six projects going on that are, born from these discussions between different disciplines. So they are usually, I will show you also later, but we have projects between climates and geophysics, between astronomy and climate, geophysics and astronomy, and we even have one that manages to have together biology, climate, geophysics, and astronomy, which is, as you know, not an easy task, but I will show you later. So we also have some ideas for the future, and sorry, I wanted to mention that we also are trying to do a bit of outreach, and so in May 2023 we had a poster exhibition that was next to Lake Geneva. It was about 30 posters in broad daylight, and so everyone that was just walking, could see these posters, and we had quite a few people that told us it was really nice. So we were very, very happy about that. And it was also a way to introduce the center to the people in Geneva. All right, and for the future, our plans are to create 2 new professorial chairs. So one would be on the origin of life, so increasing the complexity to simple chemical molecules to life. And the second one would be on planetary biospheres, which is a fancy way just to say we want to study with this chair the interactions between the interior of a planet and the atmosphere. And we also want to create fellowships, which we are going to call Michel Mayor Fellowships. And we would like to create 3 of them per year in a scheme very similar to what Didier told us about a bit earlier. So right now we don't have the funds to create all that, but we are in Switzerland, so you have rich people. And basically the plan is to try to find some of them that would be okay with helping us create these chairs and fellowships. So it's going to go very fast in the fall. So hopefully by the end of the year we will know a bit more about these funding schemes. So yeah, let's cross fingers. So we have a website, you can check it out. And I just wanted also to say that we are not isolated in a way that we are members of the European Astrobiology Institute, and we also associated with IANA. All right, okay, so basically the center, at the moment we have these different disciplines that are involved. So as I told you, we started with astrophysics. We have a strong astrophysics department in the University of Genève, but we managed to attract colleagues in all these other disciplines. And so the way the center is structured, we have a coordination group. And so basically you have 2 geophysicists, 2 biologists, 1 chemist, 1 physicist that also deals with climates and stuff, and we have 2 astrophysicists. So that's our coordination group. We also have a scientific advisory board that is directed by Michel Mayor with a bunch of external experts, which span, we hope, the broad range that is necessary for all these interdisciplinary efforts. And this scientific advisory board is going to help us keep, consistency about what we are going to do, help us to see what new project we should promote to be maybe more to see more, I don't know how to say that. And also to provide us some strategic advice, like, okay, maybe do not go in this direction, maybe go into this more different direction. So that's how the center is structured at the moment. All right, and I just wanted to show you some people, because science is done by people. So here are our astrophysicists. So some of you might recognize some of them. So we have also a bunch of people working on climate science, try to understand habitability, for instance. We have quite a few people now. It increased a lot in the last year working on geophysics. And we also have, as I said, a few people working on chemistry and biology, and of course I'm not putting everyone here. We have a few more people that started recently, which I don't have the pictures of. So as you see, we are very far from the big centers that were introduced before, but we are growing little by little. And of course, the main objective, as most of the other centers, is to lead interdisciplinary projects, so to understand how life originated on Earth, and how should we look for it in the solar system, but also in exoplanetary systems. So now I will just show you a few of the projects, so not all of them, only a selection of a few of them. So I will start with a project which is more on astrophysics. and which is like technological developments that we are doing in the Department of Astronomy. And it's in a broad context of looking for biosignatures, so these elusive signature of life. And so we are developing in the Department of Astronomy at the University of Geneva the Ristretto instrument, which will be installed hopefully by 2025 at the VLT in Chile. And this instrument is going to be able to detect, we hope, the reflected light coming from Proxima b, which is the planet which is orbiting the star the closest to our solar system and in the habitable zone. Contrary to transit spectroscopy, reflected light could allow us to probe down to the surface. So it could be feasible to maybe detect an ocean, for instance, at the surface of the planet, which would be nice. And so this is what this kind of instrument is aiming to do for Proxima b. And we have PhD students that are working on the instrument design. So here I show you the spectrograph, but in particular, Muskan is working on the adaptive optic that you need to have to separate the sources, the star and the planets. And then you feed the light of the planet into a spectrograph. And so Ristretto can be seen as a prototype for another instrument that will be installed this time on the EELT. So the instrument is called Andis, and so it's more in the 2030s that it should be installed. So it's the scale is very different. You go from an 8-meter diameter mirror to a 39-meter. And for Andes, we have a few golden targets, which are potentially habitable planets that we could also observe the reflected light of. And for instance, we have a PhD student, Mathilde, who is performing climate simulations to try to, let's say, simulate future observations of these golden targets with Andes. And it's in collaboration with colleagues at the LMD here in Paris. Okay, now I would like to show you a nice project that started like a few weeks ago, which is about the volatile cycling and magma degassing on Earth and exoplanets. And so that's a collaboration between Earth Sciences and astrophysics. So it was recently approved for I think 4 years. It's led by Luca Caricchi, who is a geophysicist at the University of Geneva. And the idea is to say, okay, if you don't have plectonics, if you have only a stagnant lid, you have a very limited amount of recycling between the volatiles and what's inside the planet, basically. But on the other side, if you have plate tectonics, you have a strong recycling of these volatiles. And basically what they are planning to do is to look at zircon crystals, and more particularly apatite inclusions in these crystals that are supposed to reflect the state of the atmosphere that the Earth had when the crystals were formed. So basically, these crystals, once they're formed, it's very hard to destroy them, and so they are kind of relics of. They enclose relics of how the atmosphere was like in the past. And so by analyzing the chemical composition of these inclusions into these crystals, the idea would be to kind of reconstruct the history of the atmosphere of the Earth, and if we were more in a strong recycling kind of scenario, or in a limited recycling kind of scenario. And so on this project, there is one postdoc, Clémentine, who will work on the geochemistry of these inclusions during the first period of the Earth. A PhD student will work more specifically around the Great Oxidation event. And a postdoc will also complete the project by performing numerical simulations of planetary dynamics to try to tie all of this together, basically. Another project I wanted to mention, which is also a collaboration, between earth sciences and climate, basically, is to look at the Earth, but trying to understand the system of the Earth from the base of the mantle to the top of the atmosphere. So really to try to have both the geophysics and the atmosphere together. So it's a huge project, and it's actually a collaboration between the University of Geneva and the University of Zurich, and coupled the center that Didier is leading. In particular, the PI is Paul Tackley from Zurich, and they have 5 PhDs on this big project. And the idea basically is to understand how the climate of the Earth oscillated between this moment of greenhouse, so where the planet was hot, as you can see here, and moments where you were more in a ice house kind of climate, so much colder temperatures. And they want to understand how this curve came to be. And it's also a project that aims to look at the role of paleogeography and plate tectonic on the stability of the climate. And one of the challenges of that, obviously, is that you need to couple different kind of processes. So you need to couple a climate model to a paleogeographic model and to a mantle convection model, which, as you know, are not operating on the same kind of time scales. So it's rather challenging to do that. So their plan is to look at the long time trends using this kind of interior model and coupling it to a fast climate model in the first step. And they also are going to perform climate simulations at key time slices that are indicated with these arrows here. And so the PhD, one of the PhD students who is going to work in Geneva is going to perform these climate simulations. All right, then we have also projects between astrophysics and environmental sciences, and so it's a bit more maybe theoretical, let's say, but it's still interesting in my opinion. So it's looking at the climate multistability. So basically, when you have a planet with the same external forcing, so the same star, the same atmosphere, the same everything, it can actually exist at different stable states, which are completely different from one another. So, for instance, the Earth, we know it's stable as we know it, so, you know, with surface liquid water and everything. But if the planet was, if the Earth was a snowball, it would also be stable as the snowball, and it's also stable as if all the ocean are evaporated in the atmosphere, it will also stay in that state. So it's we know that the Earth has at least 3 stable states like that. And so the idea of this project is to study this idea of multistability in the context of the habitable zone, so for exoplanets, and how it can inform our view of what habitable zone planet means, basically. So here it's a collaboration between the Department of Astronomy and also the Institute of Environmental Sciences in Geneva. And finally, I wanted to finish with the project that tries to link biology, environmental sciences, earth sciences, and astrophysics. And basically, the idea of this project is to perform experiments on Earth life, and in more particularly bacterial life. And we want to see if they survive, evolve, and adapt to conditions that you could potentially find on exoplanets. And so it was inspired by a paper by Sarah Seeger in 2020. But we wanted to push this experiment further and on a wider range of atmospheres, because in this 2020 paper by Sarah Seeger, they looked at a hydrogen-dominated atmosphere, but we also wanted to try different kind of atmospheres. And so the questions are first, okay, can they survive? And so that's what we have been doing the past year, basically checking the survivability. And we also wanted to see what kind of biosignatures could we find after adaptation to these new conditions. And so that's, we have not done it so far, but we have done most of the first point, I guess. So it was a work performed by Francesca Bertolino and Asena Kuzukan during the last year. And they are continuing, obviously, this pre-millennial work, and I will tell you a bit more. So the idea was to take E. coli, the E. coli bacteria. So I guess you know this bacteria because it lives in our guts, but it can also be found in Lake Geneva, for instance. And so what we did is that we put them in a small environment, so in a bottle like this, together with a medium, which is called the LB medium, which is basically all the food that this bacteria needs to survive and be happy. And then we filled the headspace of this bottle with different gases. So for instance, here it was a test with nitrogen. And here you have 3 bottles for control. So we had on the one side, so the bacteria in this medium, and on the other side we wanted to also kind of create conditions that are slightly more realistic. And so we took filtered Lake Geneva water here, and we also put volcanic rock inside this bottle with the bacteria, hoping that they would be able to feed somehow on these rocks. So the results were the following. So if you put the bacteria in the LB medium, you had the typical kind of growth of the colonies that you obtain if you do biology. So I'm not going to go into the details, but basically all of them grew in all the atmospheres we tested, which are listed here. So we tested a pure CO2 atmosphere, for instance, or a pure hydrogen atmosphere. So we were happy about that, but the problem that we had is that for the rocks we didn't see anything. So basically it was like the bacteria were dead. So we wanted to know, are they really dead, these bacteria? And so we added some glucose into the system, and actually they were just dormant, they were not dead. And we managed to revive them by giving them some food, basically. And so we were happy about it, because at first we thought they are all going to die, and because it's very hard to extract nutrients from a volcanic rock like this. But this gave us ideas for the future of the project, and more specifically now what we want to do is to create an early Earth-like environment and an early Mars-like environment with different kind of bacteria, so not E. coli anymore, and perform this kind of experiments to see how an early life on Earth and an early life on Mars could have, survived and adapted to these conditions. So yeah, I really like mentioning this project because it's so far away from what I know, and just the astrophysics part of this project basically was to see what kind of habitable conditions you could have with these different gases. And so this project was also accompanied with a bunch of climate simulations to see what kind of surface conditions you could hope for instance, a pure hydrogen atmosphere. All right, and so I think I'm done. So it's just the same slide as in the beginning, just to give you an overview of where we're at the moment. And just we are still young, let's say, in Switzerland, in the sense that we are still in this phase of trying to get the community together. So we were created, as I said, 2 years ago. Didier's center in Zurich was created 1 year ago. There is also a center in Bern. There are also people in Lausanne that are interested on the subject. And so at the moment we are trying to structure the community. We will have the first Swiss Astrobiology Day next year to try to get all these people together and maybe create a society at some point. So it's really the beginning. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much. That's a nice beginning with results as well. So wish you well for next steps. We'll take questions from the room. Yeah.
Congratulations. It's really a tremendous effort. I have 3 questions, starting for the end. In the case of the E. coli, in the sample that you put on the rock, what was in the rock? Was inorganic compounds of, do you include some organic compounds?
I'm sorry?
In the sample, in the experiment with E. coli, that you observed no growth, there were organic compounds inside?
I don't think so, because everything was autoclaved.
This is the reason why there were no growth.
Yeah, exactly. So basically the idea, I don't remember the technical term, but we want to use for the next step bacteria that know how to get nutrients from rocks.
Chemiotrophic bacteria.
Exactly. Yeah.
Second question is about zircons. The zircons, do you have samples, pristine samples from zircon crystals?
I hope so. I don't know. We should ask the people that are doing this project. I think they must have, but I don't know if I don't think they rely on going to the field and finding the crystals. So I think they already have a few of them to work with.
Great. And the third one is about the Andes structure, the Andes telescope.
Andes, yes.
Is one of your facilities, I understood well?
Is one?
Your facility?
Well, Switzerland is
okay.
is in the science team and everything.
Do you know if there is still open for external users? Can people ask for time?
It's a very good question. I guess so, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
So yes,
because
but it's a second generation instrument, so it's not part of the.
Yeah. Then, but in the future, it's planned to be open to, because something that I forgot to say in my presentation is all our facilities are open to external users for anybody that wants to collaborate.
Yeah, I mean, if it's an ISO policy, I think it will be open anyway.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, too late. Later on. Good talk. Thank you very much. So the next talk would be actually done by Inge Losten-Kate from Utrecht, who talked this morning, but she's talking on behalf of Muriel Gargaud from Bordeaux on the European Astrobiology Institute.
So good afternoon this time. So these are Muriel's slides. I'm trying to talk you through them. So Muriel has put together this presentation on what the European Astrobiology Institute is doing. And I assume that many of you have heard of this already. The EAI is also a virtual institute. Of course, it's spread out over the entirety of Europe. It was founded in May 2019, so it also has no building. And it's hosted by the European Science Foundation. And the idea behind the EAI is that it actually started off as a spin-off from a cost action, Origins, also called Origins. And it's a collaboration of institutes. So institutes sign up, and it's not individuals that collaborate, but institutes sponsor the EAI. There's a local team coordinator at each entity, and members can both be higher educational, research institutes, enterprises, museums, governments, NGOs, so it's really meant to be a very broad institute. And of course, there were already existing networks like EANA that has been mentioned before. There's also the ISOL, International Society for the Search for the Origin of Life. But the EAI tries to be, in between and not overlapping with one of these existing efforts already. So the EAI has organized a wide range of activities already, science, training networks, meetings. And as I mentioned, it's funded by membership institution fees and grants. So there are several participating entities. You can see them here. France is well represented with CNRS and CNES. The CAP is one of the funders. INAF in Italy is one of the core organizations. The FNRS in Belgium, DLR in Germany. And there's currently negotiations ongoing with the Italian Space Agency. So there are 22 participating institutions. Universities and research institutions are paying lower fees of about €2,000 a year. The budget of the EAI is around €90,000 a year. And this is contributed by the core organizations and the participating entities. EAI has been divided up in 6 working groups and 8 activity working groups. And in the scientific working groups, there are 6 themes. Some may sound familiar to some of the themes we've already heard today. So there's a theme on formation and evolution of planetary systems and detections of habitable worlds. There's a working group on the pathway to complexity from simple molecules to the first life. There's a working group on planetary environments and habitability. A working group on evolution and traces of early life and life under extreme conditions. A working group on biosignatures and the detection of life beyond Earth. And I don't think we have heard that much today already. There is a working group on the historical, philosophical, and societal and ethical issues in astrobiology. And there are different activity working groups as well. So there's the European Astrobiology Campus that for example, hosts a bi-weekly astrobiology seminar series starting on the 4th of October. There's education, so there's summer schools and winter schools. There's a working group based on outreach to the general public. There's a working group that's dealing with dissemination and intellectual output to the scientific community. There's an industry liaison. There's a working group dealing with the field work and field site management of the field sites that many of the European entities are using for their field work. Research infrastructures and funding and policy. Also within this whole structure, there are even smaller entities, project teams, and these are focused on smaller or special themes or missions. So they can be led and joined by members of non-participating entities. So that's why I'm also part, because I'm not part of a participating entity. And there are several. There's a project team on impacts and their role in the evolution of planets, moons, and life. There's a project team on physical and chemical processes in protoplanetary disks. There's a project team on science fiction as a tool for astrobiology outreach and education, and I'm going to show you an example of that. There's a project team of tracing life and identifying habitable environments, and a project team on Mars sample return. And these project teams have their own activities, so they have their own workshops and working groups and training events. They hold special sessions on other meetings as well. And the idea behind the project teams is also that they try to apply for their own funding to sustain their project team, for example, cost actions. There's one biannual conference called Beacon, which was this year in May on La Palma. So the conference consists of 5 days of scientific sessions across all subjects of astrobiology. They collaborate with the astrobiology graduates in Europe, which is a somewhat independent entity that works together with EANA, but also works together with EAI. And generally, EANA meetings and EAI meetings like Beacon the day before one of these meetings is always used as an astrobiology graduate meeting. There were some outreach events in this meeting at La Palma. There was a public event in Spanish for the local population. And at this meeting there were over 200 abstracts submitted. There are different training events. There are basic training schools in astrobiology. For example, the RED training school here in France, close to Bordeaux. There are also specialized training schools in subfields, generally involving fieldwork. And there's the EAI Academy, that's what I already mentioned. So that's a lecture series of themes in astrobiology. And from the EAI Academy, students that participate can actually get credits as well that they can use in their regular curriculum. All these lectures are available online, so you can find them on astrobiovideo.com. And there's also teams created of early career scientists through a NASA Peace Star grant. There were DPS awards as well. And here you see an example of a summer school on small impact craters. As I already mentioned, there's a working group or a project team looking at using science fiction as a tool to communicate astrobiology. One of the outcomes of that is this Life Beyond Us, this book. And the idea, the way for EAI to do their outreach is through permanent and migrating exhibitions, collaborations with museums and associations, new techniques in outreach, and as I mentioned before, the use of science fiction to reach a general public. And here's a nice example of that. Intellectual output and dissemination also happens, for example, in special issues in scientific journals, in reference works like this Encyclopedia of Astrobiology, which is published by Springer, web-streamed seminars that are also stay online for reference afterwards, and of course beacon and workshops on special projects, subjects. There's different field works organized within the scope of EAI. And the idea behind it is to develop field sites and organize field campaigns and share expertise and equipment, also share the local support and have outreach activities locally. And these fieldworks also support teams of students and early career investigators. There's a collaboration with local universities, citizen scientists, through this, they're also applying for EU research infrastructure starting community grants. So here you see another early career science team, which is called Pele. This is actually a mix of funding and a mix of people from the US and from Europe. And they've done fieldwork in caves, in lava tubes in Iceland, and also on the Azores, as analogues for lava tubes on Mars and the Moon. There's also a few upcoming events, several of which again are summer schools and autumn schools, maybe if we're talking about September. So one just happened last week, which was a summer school on impacts and their role in the evolution of life in Germany. There's another conference on commercial space exploration and travel in Kiruna in Sweden next week. And you can find all these the information about this on the website of EAI, which is europeanastrobiology.eu. There's another summer/autumn school in the Azores in October on volcanism, plate tectonics, hydrothermal vents and life. And then back to back with that summer school, there's a conference in the same region on habitat, species, metabolism, and survival strategies. So this is more or less really brief, but at least then we make our coffee break. So this is an overview of the participants of the Beacon meeting. And if you're interested in joining the European Astrobiology Institute, there's no final slide with a website. You can find the institute on europeanastrobiology.com. And with that really brief summary, I thank you very much for your attention. And the rest you can find on the website.
Thank you very much for making it short as well, but it's very interesting, and the European, yeah, we really want to get involved, get close link with the initiatives you presented. I will see if there are questions in the room.
I'm not sure if I can answer many questions. But
In case, okay, everybody's ready for coffee then. Before we, I just want to thank the speaker who came all the way to Paris and to present really nice initiative, give us ideas on how really feedback, and it's really very interesting, and we should keep close link. I will thank you, Inge, for also stepping in and hope to get close link all together. Thank you very much. So it's coffee time, but we'll do it in 20 minutes instead of 30 because we are running a little bit late. Thanks.